It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends yes! Caught! Touchdown! Did he get it?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on into the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. And you did hear it at the top of the hour there. The NBA All-Star Reserves will be announced this hour. If anybody wearing a Utah Jazz uniform is among them, we'll let you know. There are some trade rumors surrounding the Utah Jazz that have heated up today. We'll get to that. They did get a nice win last night over Toronto. Toronto has a lot of players that are being discussed in various trade rumors. But nonetheless, the Jazz got the win. Aggies got the win last night in the Spectrum. Big home win over New Mexico. And beating one of the top teams in this conference has been tough for the Aggies so far, but that was a first good step. And more, hopefully, to come for USU. Tonight is the resumption of girls basketball in Region 11, which also means we resume our girls basketball game of the week, which will be taking place at Green Canyon High School tonight. It'll be broadcast on 107.7 KLZX. Cade Forrest will be on the call, and it'll also be video streaming on CashValleyDaily.com, a way to highlight girls basketball in Region 11. Green Canyon versus Ridgeline, number 1 versus number 3 in the 4A RPI standings. So it should be a big showdown. Hopefully we have a good game tonight, and you can watch it or listen to it later on this evening. So a lot of different things to discuss here on the Full Court Press this hour. I'd love to hear from you as well, and we apologize. We didn't get to all the texts from last hour. I had a lot coming through, and some of them will just keep rolling into this hour. But if you want to chime in as well, 435-339-0321 to chime in. But let's start there with the Utah State victory over New Mexico. I know we spent most of last hour, pretty much the full hour, talking about it. But Utah State has struggled against the top teams in the standings of this conference with losses against Boise State, San Diego State, and Nevada. But different story when New Mexico came to town. It certainly helps when that is on the Spectrum floor on Spectrum Magic Night. And it was magical. It was fun night watching it with the everybody in the shirts, matching the seats, getting out their cell phones and lighting up their lights on their cameras. It was a magical night for USU.
Yeah, it was great, and that I went to the game about 30, 40 minutes early. That's when I plopped down into my seat, and just about the entirety of the student section was full before I did that. The doors apparently opened. I was told they were open around 5 o'clock, partly because of the cold. 8:30 tip-off ended up being 8:45, but they opened up early, probably partly to make sure that people didn't get frostbite before going into the game.
Standing in line and waiting to get in.
So, but yeah, they were there early. They were there way. Usually I'm there and you get like a third of it's full, and then even in the games where they've the last 4 or 5 games or so ever since they came out of like the holiday breaks and all that, they've been in like standing room only. You look at the top and there's like 3-4 rows of students trying to crowd around to the top of like the end line and up above on the sideline one. It's like, yeah, they're all crowded up there because they've filled the student section beyond capacity, and they've just about gotten to that point, and there were still 40 minutes to go before tip off. And it really was magical. Like I said, there were some spotty places in the non-student section, but part of it was late tip-off and also freezing. So we'll see a sellout yet. We'll see once they stop having these 9 o'clock tip-offs.
Just under 8,900 reported. So yeah, solid crowd for USU. Good to see good active, fun crowds in the Spectrum again. And we've seen that the last couple of home games.
Yeah, and it got loud, and it wasn't as loud in this game because, well, they controlled the game by double digits for most of the second half, which I guess is definitely, you don't get loud in a game you're blowing them out in. It's like the most you get is the up by 20 chant, which I don't even think they did, even though Utah State, I think, did go up by 20 at one point. But yeah, it got loud in the first half when they were going on that run because they were getting super excited. They got loud early. But the loudest part of the entire game was when they played the music for like the Spirit Squad. That about blew my ears out. Like the first couple of seconds, they'd be like, "Holy cow. Are you trying to play it over the sounds of the students?" I feel like I'm getting older because I'm complaining about the noise. I'm not really mad at the students. That's enjoyable. But when the music, I hate how loud the music is.
Don't tell me you were upset that the students didn't sit down. They were standing the whole time.
Really? People get upset about that?
Oh, yes.
I actually had a moment where it was during halftime.
By at this point, like, you should know better by now. But
yeah.
It happens from time to time.
The funny thing was, though, is I stood up during halftime, but there was like a show going. They were doing some halftime thing, some little contest or something that I knew people would want to see, but I wanted to stand up because I'd been sitting the entire first half because, I'm in a place where I'm supposed to sit. But then I was like, okay, but if I stand up, the people in those first couple rows may not be able to see what's going on. So I was like, I stood up, but then I bent over. I was like, okay, I'm trying to be helpful here. I got to stretch out my legs and get off my butt, but trying to be courteous as well.
Several texts coming through. If you want to chime in, we'd love to hear from you also. 435-339-0321. 0366 texting in says, did you notice the lineup last night with all non-U.S. born players for the Ags, all 5 foreigners?
I didn't notice at the time, and I kind of forgot that was actually possible. I'm guessing it would have been like Bairstow, Shulga, Dorius, Idlerock, and Hamoda? No, not Dorius, Akin. Yeah, Bairstow, Shulga, Idlerock, Hamoda, and Akin. That's the only 5-man lineup that would work. I didn't notice they were all on the floor at the same time. I'll have to look and see how these all foreign-born lineups. They probably haven't played too many lineups together. Because, yeah, that's interesting where you get, a couple Englanders, Bahrain,
Australia, Ukraine.
My apologies to every Australian for what I just did there. So, yeah. And that's kind of somewhere where I brought up with the Jazz a while back because I remember comparing, teams from 30 years ago. I was comparing them for some other reason. But I happened to notice that, all of them were American, in the 90s, with maybe one exception. And then the team I was comparing it to was, from, the 2018 or 2019 Jazz were, there were, 2 or 3 Americans. Everyone else was from somewhere else because you got Gobert and Joe Ingles and Bojan Bogdanovic and just, everybody from just anywhere but the U.S. You'd have some, the Mike Conleys and Donovan Mitchells and whatnot, but so many players these days are, born outside the U.S., so it's great.
International game. It's awesome.
And it really helps the Aggies because you can find a lot of these diamonds in the rough in other places. You look at how many of your starters are from outside the U.S. 2 of them.
2 are, and then you've got your 6th man coming off the bench who is.
So it's you can find these guys. And, one of your best players of the last 5 or 6 years in Nemish Keta, he was born outside the U.S. And so there's a lot of basketball talent that, when you're a smaller program, you can find because, big programs are going to be landing the McDonald's All-Star Americans and the guys that score 25, 30 points at their local high school in Texas or Florida. And you'll find a little diamond in the rough, the Max Shulga, who's pretty dang good for his Ukraine team, or Nemish Keta, the guys who are the only or one of a handful of, Division I players from their country, period. Aziz Hamoda, who's literally the only Division I basketball player that country has ever had.
Yes.
But he's talented. He's good. Yeah. He's a good player. And so you can develop him. He can be a very good player.
9315 texting in, if Eric keeps this up and takes the Jazz over the Aggies, we'll have to make Jason the main host and take his media pass away, give it to the Elf the Aj.
Do you even have media passes right now?
I don't have a media pass. So if I go to an Aggie game, I'm buying a ticket.
Yeah, I know we have passes for the photographers, and then I think there's one other media pass maybe that we have.
Yeah, well, John Russell goes. He has a pass because he does the post game. So he tries to be there in person most that he can. We've got a pass for you to be there for our purposes here on the show, but also for coverage on Cache Valley Daily. And then, we've got a pass that gets shared among our freelance photographers who go shoot for us. But I don't have one.
Yeah, Eric doesn't
I'm
get a
on the
pass.
outside. I'm like you guys. I pay to go watch the games.
Yeah, that's.
And I do. And that's fine. I enjoy it. I actually enjoy sitting in the crowd because you get a different flavor and you get to hear how people are talking and reacting to the game. So I actually enjoy it, being in the crowd rather than on press row.
How many of the games do you end up going to? Because sometimes you're back in the studio, at least especially for the football games.
Football's tough. I don't really get to many of those because I am here doing stuff in studio. But basketball, I try to get to 5-6 games a year. So I wish I could get to more, but there are other things sometimes helping out with high school games that I have to do here to help get games on the air and online. But, I try to get to a good handful of games every year.
Yeah, usually tied up. It's my job to be there, so I have to be at every single
Yes.
home game. I've watched all but one Aggie game this year. I think I missed one. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It's because I went somewhere or did something. It was the Nevada game. Well, actually, I still watched part of that Nevada game.
Yeah,
because I went to a Jazz game. I just didn't cover it.
That's right. And it was one of those later games, so you could still
so
watch
I
a
ended
good
up
chunk of it.
I watched the collapse. That's what I watched. I turned on and 2 minutes after I started
it's
watching.
your fault.
Maybe it might very well have been. I should have stopped watching because I wouldn't watch the Jazz game, and the Jazz won. They beat the Magic that night, and then the Aggies lost to
Nevada.
went through 3 different teams.
Hey, speaking of the Jazz, there is a new trade rumor, and surrounding a player who's been mentioned before as a potential trade target from other teams. Shams Charania, who reports for The Athletic, went to social media about an hour ago with the latest rumors surrounding the Utah Jazz and the trade market and who's showing interest in him.
The Portland Trail Blazers have emerged as a strong suitor for Utah Jazz forward Jared Vanderbilt, sources tell me. Portland is among a few teams showing interest in Vanderbilt, who appears increasingly likely to be dealt ahead of the February 9th NBA trade deadline. Vanderbilt is averaging 8.5 points, 7.8 rebounds, and nearly 3 assists a game in 24 minutes per night for the Jazz in his 5th NBA season, and he was among the pieces that Utah acquired in the Rudy Gobert trade.
So there you have it, Jared Vanderbilt and the Portland Trailblazers. What is not being reported there, which is frustrating, is who would Portland be interested in giving up to get Jared Vanderbilt?
Yeah, that's.
So we hear this from time to time. Yeah, we have interest in so and so, but what are you proposing?
Yeah, we heard the Atlanta, all the smokes. Okay, Jared Vanderbilt, and you get John Collins, and there's obviously a lot more to that deal than just swapping Vanderbilt and Collins, but you at least get some idea. And here it's okay, the Blazers want Jared Vanderbilt. Okay, yeah, I'm sure you do.
Can I issue a report here? Get the camera going, the fancy music and the sound effects and the graphics. Utah Jazz are interested in trading for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, it's yeah, sure, I'd love him.
Wow, yeah, sure.
Tell us what's going on. So yeah, I saw a couple of. I've seen some. Went into the quote tweets of that thing to see how many different trades. I didn't see as many trade machine screenshots that I thought it would. I saw the one that was Justice Winslow and 2 second-round picks for Jared Vanderbilt, and I was like, can I just keep Jared Vanderbilt then? It's just, we're going to give you our garbage player in 2 seconds. We're going to get anyone in your rotation. That's what some trade machine people are like. I know Jared Vanderbilt, it's not like he's worth a first-round pick or, a super good prospect or giant starting caliber player. He's not the most valuable guy. He's a fill-in rotation guy, bolsters your lineup. But a bust and 2 second-round picks for Jared Vanderbilt?
Yeah, no thanks.
And then on the other end, there was one guy that proposed the Jazz send Vanderbilt and one of Utah's first-round picks. I forgot to check which one. And then the Jazz would get, I think it was Shaedon Sharpe, who was like Portland's number 7 overall pick from this year, which, okay, I'd probably be okay with that. I don't know if Portland would.
Yeah, so it's rumor season in the NBA. Sometimes you kind of worry about the team chemistry sometimes. If these rumors start to circulate and involves somebody on your team, we saw this with Utah a few years ago. With now all of a sudden his name's skipping my mind. He's from Spain, point guard. Oh gosh,
Wait, for who?
he played on the Jazz. Now he's
Ricky Rubio?
Ricky Rubio, thank you. Oh, jeez. His name was rumored at the trade deadline, and it seemed to be quite a bit of smoke about it. So where there's smoke, there's fire, and it seemed to get really weird in the locker room afterwards. And the players and their trust of management and the coaching staff and ownership on how that was handled. So that you have to be careful with some of these rumors that get swirling around, because some of these teams, for some, they don't really care. Like, we know we're not going anywhere, so I don't care what your feelings are. We're still going to openly discuss these potential trades. But if you're in a team that's competing and on the cusp, and you're still trying to find a way to get your team better, I think you still have to be careful, because that can really be disruptive for team chemistry and just overall the feelings in the building.
I think that's part of why maybe you see the Jazz do so much posturing where they're just saying, oh, we're fine where we are. We don't need to make a trade. They're doing that a ton, and they did that in the offseason with Mitchell and Gobert, and they're doing it again now. I don't know necessarily that they're exactly the same or we're going to have the exact same result. I'm of the feeling that the Jazz could very well not make a trade, because they're going to wait for a good deal. If they don't get a great deal, not just a good deal, but a great deal for these guys, I don't think they're going to trade. So, they're saying we don't need to make a trade, and maybe that kind of allays the fears of anyone who's maybe in the trade block, where they say, "Hey, look, we explore possibilities, but look, we know we don't need to make a trade. We're satisfied with where you're at. Sure, we'll explore these things, but we like what you're doing. So the only way we're going to trade you is if we get a giant, haul for you." And that can kind of maybe bolster their opinion of themselves that, hey, they value me, and sure, everyone can be traded, but if they value me so highly they won't trade me unless someone pays a ridiculous price for me, then that can kind of pull a bit of Uno reverse card in that other situation you were talking about, where people get unsettled because, oh, you were trying to trade me? Well,
yeah, I know. It's kind of funky. It's tricky. The deadline is February 9th, so these conversations and rumors are only going to heat up more over the next few days. Jared Vanderbilt, he's a nice player. I think he fills some roles, but I think that is somebody that Utah could upgrade at that position. It's not like he's been here a long time and there's like deep community buy-in in him, but he's somebody that would be okay to have on the roster, but also an expendable piece if it makes your roster better. So, or for now, or necessarily, planning in the future, more assets for future opportunities.
And that's why I say don't get too attached to a lot of these guys. Now, there are people who there was one guy getting super hyped over the fact that Patrick Beverley was going to be on the team. I was like, don't get attached. One, because Patrick Beverley's a jerk and I don't want him on this team. Two, he was expendable and they moved him. And Jared Vanderbilt's the same way, and so many of these guys are the same way. It seems the only point of this, right now, the only non-expendable guys are you mentioned in the first hour. Basically, it's Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Like, that's it. And even then, the right price may move them. Granted, nobody's going to pay that right price.
Right.
But you have an entire roster full of guys that, sure, you're not going to move them just to move them, but you're willing to move them if you need to.
We need to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. There is news that is happening now that these reserves are being announced. They started with the Eastern Conference All-Star Reserves. Western Conference is going to be announced any minute now. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll announce that. As you might suspect, there are always going to be some snubs, and one of these snubs, it could end up hurting the Utah Jazz. I'll explain that coming up on the Full Court Press.
We're heading into some crazy weather this winter, which means power outages. Tyler and his team at Golden Spike Electric can install a Generac automatic standby generator for your home so you can avoid issues when the power goes out. If you have one already, Golden Spike Electric can maintain your Generac automatic standby generator for you. Find them online at gsegenerators.com or call 435-257-3016. Golden Spike Electric and Generac automatic standby generators. Power you can count on.
Want to set yourself apart from the competition? The Leadership MBA at Utah State University will help you lead companies and drive change in your organization. You can attend in person in Logan on Thursday evenings or take an interactive online class. Complete your MBA in as little as a year. Apply before March 1st to be considered for summer semester. Contact the MBA office for a waiver of the $55 application fee. Learn more at utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com.
The new Prodigy Brewing on Center Street in Logan offers an atmosphere that's vibrant, energetic, and friendly. Serving handmade juicy burgers, wood-fired pizzas, wings, nachos, and locally crafted beer while bringing a unique space to downtown Logan. Now offering lighter lunch options like personal-sized pizzas and sliders, or choose from your favorites like wings, beer cheese, fried pickles, and more. Stop by for a quick and delicious lunch that will get you back to work on time. Experience Prodigy Brewing, exceptional food, extraordinary service, and family-friendly on Center Street in downtown Logan.
Bull Moose RV has moved to a new location with a huge indoor shop and the ability to work on several motorhomes and RVs at the same time. They hope to earn your business with amazing service. Bull Moose RV can service your RVs, and now is the best time to get that done before the spring rush. They also have several used RVs for sale. Head in and get a great price on a gently used RV. Find them at 1850 North, 600 West, or online at bullmooseRV.com.
100 plus businesses, thousands of people, free parking, Main Street access. It's the Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show presented by Anderson Seed and Garden at the Eccles Ice Center, March 24th and 25th. If you are a home and garden business, from crafts to home building or excavation to emergency preparedness, this show is for you. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show for details.
That's Cache Valley Home and Garden Show.
Or call 752-1390 for more details.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. The NBA All-Star Reserves are being announced this hour, and it could have the potential of having a negative effect on an upcoming Utah Jazz game, because a player got snubbed, and he could take it out on his next opponent.
We're going to have another 60-point game going all Karl Malone, 62, after getting snubbed.
So, I mean, as it happens, I mean, there's a lot of great talent in the NBA right now, and there's only so many slots to fill on an all-star team. You have your starters, and then you have your reserves. And in the NBA Eastern Conference, the reserves were announced first in the East, and that includes Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, and Julius Randle.
Notice one name conspicuously missing from that list. Point guard out of Oklahoma, Trae Young.
Yes, currently with the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young, and that's who the Jazz will face on Friday. So, I mean, I don't know if he's going to really take it out on the Jazz, but he has that potential. Sometimes that happens. Guys get snubbed, and then they want to prove everybody why they deserve to be there.
Of course, he made the All-Star game in 2019-20, then missed it the next year. I don't know if that was injury because he actually played more games that next year than they did the first year. So I don't know why he missed it in 2020 and 2021. He then made it again in the 21-22 season. That's really hard to say all these seasons.
That's a lot of 20s.
It works a lot better in writing. Missed it.
Couple others. James Harden was snubbed. Trae Young leads the league in assists, total assists. James Harden leads the league in assists per game. He's not going. Pascal Siakam, he's not going. Jalen Brunson, he's not going.
Neither of those two guys you named just now deserve to be All-Stars.
They've had some pretty big games.
Like, Siakam hasn't played at an All-Star level in like 3 years.
The Western Conference All-Star reserves include, they were just announced during our time out there, Ja Morant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Damian Lillard, Jaren Jackson Jr., Domantas Sabonis, Paul George, and Lauri Markkanen.
There you go. I wasn't sure he was going to make it. I didn't think he was. My pessimistic side was doubting it, but as I was refreshing on Twitter, I was like, come on, somebody announce it. And there you go. Lauri Markkanen, 6th season in the NBA, makes his first All-Star appearance.
And there are going to be some snubs in the West as well, but look, this guy has played phenomenal this year. Routinely 24, 25, 28 points a night, double-digit rebounds, decent defender, and really leading this team. And in a season that was supposed to be, from the outside, a lot of outsiders thinking this was going to be a garbage year for the Jazz, and they were just going to tank and not really do anything. And here they are in playoff contention. And Lauri Markkanen, absolutely a great part of that. A resurging year for him. He's a front runner for Most Improved Player of the Year, and now he can also add All-Star to his resume.
Is there anybody else even on the Most Improved Player?
Who else would be in the running?
Who else would be in the running?
Good question. Jalen Brunson, maybe, just where he's got an expanded role in New York. That's a fair question. Tyrese Halliburton, maybe.
Not really. That was the first name I thought of, but he's taken a bit of a jump in scoring, but he's also averaging almost 10 assists last year too.
True.
So he's not taken a huge jump the way that Markkanen has. Even Brunson, he's gone from 16 points to 22. Markkanen was in the low teens, wasn't he? Looking him up now. 14 to 24, 10-point jump there.
Yeah, he's currently averaging 24.9, 8.7 rebounds, shooting 52% from the field, 43.2% from three.
Yeah, the dude has just absolutely exploded. And some of that is obviously from larger role. That's also where Jalen Brunson's jump has come from, and he's made a respectable jump in his own right. Just looking at his stats wise, I assume that's playing out on film as well and in results, but it's Lauri Markkanen and then there's everybody else. Unless I'm just unaware of somebody, that's the only way this isn't a close race, is if I'm just completely unaware of somebody. Who out there has gone from a guy who was rotation guy, granted he was a starter in Cleveland, playing 30 minutes a game, but in kind of a low role behind some other guys, go from that to being an all-star. Last time that's happened was when Victor Oladipo did that.
Yeah, it's just out of nowhere.
Who's been, one of the only other guys to have this kind of a jump. Because oftentimes the Most Improved Player doesn't even necessarily make the All-Star game. Mostly because making the All-Star game is hard.
Right. Well, and as we mentioned with the East, there's some notable snubs in the West. Minnesota, currently the 6th team in the Western Conference standings, no All-Stars from that team.
Injuries probably factoring a bit into that, where Karl Anthony Towns missing time, Rudy Gobert missing a little bit of time, and the fact that Gobert is seen as having completely fallen off from what he was, where he was consistently an all-star selection.
Edwards has been having a solid season.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest snub. There's, I'm to gauge who has been snubbed, I just went into the comments and see which name I saw the most. And the two I'm seeing most right now are De'Aaron Fox and Anthony Edwards. Those are your two least from the West. I just see Devin Booker's name pop up. I don't know if he's been injured or not, or just
he's been benched. That's part of contributing to the slide that the Phoenix Suns have been experiencing the last couple of weeks.
A lot of people mentioned Kawhi Leonard, but I feel like he's only played like 10 games the entire season.
Yeah, he really hasn't been around.
On the East, I didn't. I saw one guy saying that talking about how it's dumb because Drew Holiday and Domantas Sabonis made it into the All-Star game. It's like, nobody wants to watch Drew Holiday and Domantas Sabonis in the All-Star game. Like, that is probably the dumbest argument I've ever seen for All-Star selection ever, is we don't want to watch X player in the All-Star game. First off, person who just commented that, you weren't going to watch the All-Star game anyway.
Probably not.
You were going to watch highlights of the dunk contest and look up who won the three-point shootout, and that's all you were going to do. And so don't give me that, because another thing is we gauge people's careers on how many All-Star games they make in part. It's All-Stars, All-NBA, All-Defense, stuff like that. And so if you're going to say that All-Star is based on who would look the best, then don't ever cite All-Star appearances as, an argument ever again. Just shut up.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert probably wouldn't get very many All-Star nods.
No, and he didn't. He's only going to end up with, the 3 that he has? He's got, 3?
Yeah.
Maybe 4? I have to go back and check exactly how many. He's got about as many Defensive Player of the Year as he does All-Stars.
Well, so the selection about who's going to be on whose team will be different this year because it won't come down to who gets Rudy last. I mean, Rudy was always the last player selected, which was always, kind of silly. But I don't know who it's going to be this year.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Who do you think is going to get picked last? I think it's going to be. I'm looking. I'm trying to see. Probably Jaren Jackson Jr.
I mean, Lauri is probably the least known among most of these other All-Stars.
He'll get picked a little later, but the fact he's a 3-point shooter, he'll throw some dunks. He's a good team. It's not like, you're going into All-Star game where it's like, yeah, if I was picking in an All-Star game, I'd also pick Rudy Gobert last because he's a shot-blocking dunker archetype, and that's not going to help you win an All-Star game.
Yes.
So you pick a guy like Markkanen he's the guy who could go for 30 points because he reigns in 10 threes on 27 attempts. Because that's how these All-Star games go. They're just jacking up.
Yeah,
shots.
Everybody's just shooting wherever.
So I could see Markkanen. Your candidates, usually you're going with centers, maybe closer to boring players. Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson Jr. guys, maybe a little bit more picked for, all-around defensive types.
Strong fundamentals, but not flashy.
Yeah. So you're probably looking at Sabonis, Jackson, maybe Julius Randle, maybe Drew Holiday. And Markkanen will be down there, but I don't think he gets picked last just because he's a scorer more so than some of these other guys.
Getting to several of your texts on their Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321, 1570. I saw a crazy stat the other day. Markkanen has more points this season than Donovan and Kessler has this season than Donovan, and Kessler has more blocks than Gobert.
Yeah, I saw that as well. With Mitchell, it comes down to, I think, just maybe more game. Granted, I think Kessler has taken fewer shots. So even though he's played more games, he's been more efficient and has more points.
And that's his thing. He's been incredibly efficient.
Yeah, it's almost stupid how efficient he's been. And there's also, how many points he scored with his relatively low usage. I need to double check that stat just to see if it's this is one I checked a month and a half ago. He was the only player to score as many points as he had on such and such usage. Need to see if it's still true because it's an amazing stat.
9315. You don't have to worry about your team being snubbed in the All-Star game if you just stick to rooting for the Aggies.
Yeah, then you can have your guys snubbed from winning the conference MVP and being all conference because the voting is stupid.
I think that was a slight shot at me for some reason.
Oh.
5634. texting in, Lauri Markkanen is an all-star. Yeah, great news.
Indeed he was. He texted that before we announced it on the show, so he was ahead of us.
Yeah, very cool to see Lauri recognized for the season that he's been having so far. He's been phenomenal. Been fun to watch him. So what will be interesting now, we know the starters were known a week and a half ago or so. Now we know the reserves. We know the captains. There will not be a selection show like we've seen in the past. They will do it the day of the All-Star game, which logistically, I don't know how they are going to pull that off with like different colored jerseys and names on the back and numbers and all that stuff.
There's a pretty easy solution to that.
But the thing that is probably smart about it, though, is that when they've announced them in the past, there's still time between when they announce and select their teams versus when the game is played, and some guys get hurt and aren't able to participate, and so they name reserves or replacement players, I should say. And by waiting until the day of the game, they really know who they have to choose and be on their team. But what's your easy solution to this logistics of jerseys and numbers and names on the back of the jersey?
Well, you have everybody's jersey for both teams. You have a jersey, one for Team LeBron, one for Team Giannis.
Oh.
It's like they
just have toss half the jerseys that you produce.
They just have twice as many jerseys.
It's
a little extra money, and it's maybe you have to wait to buy. If you want to buy an All-Star jersey, you got to wait. But
see, that's the other thing too. Or
you can pre-order, and when you get to the game and they pick, you go walk to the desk and they give you the right one.
Or maybe it's just reversible.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
Let's go old school.
Maybe that's what we'll do, is make reversible jerseys for every single. Like I said, this is 2 jerseys for every one or a reversible one. They probably won't go reversible because that's I still have one of my reversible jerseys from from junior.
Going back to when we were 8 years old.
Yeah, that's about how old I was when I wore this jersey. I don't know why I still have it.
435-339-0321 if you want to chime in. Lauri Markkanen is going to be an all-star. He was named as a reserve by the coaches for the Western Conference. There are some notable snubs throughout the NBA, and one of those will be in Utah on Friday. So could this all-star snub for Trae Young be a bad thing for the Jazz? We'll discuss that. Also, we have Pick 6 coming up in a little bit. 6 things we think are going to happen this weekend. Always invite you to play along as well. That's coming up next on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Nothing compares to the warmth and feel that a wood stove provides. The 2-time Best of Northern Utah winning team says there's never been a better time to replace your old inefficient wood stove and install a new energy-efficient EPA-certified Vermont casting wood product in your home. The U.S. government is offering federal tax credits of 26% on your wood stove install. For Vermont casting units, that includes stoves, venting, and labor. Call or email Advanced Fireplace and Stove for a free in-home estimate. Call 435-752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
If you've been with the same insurance company for many years, you're probably experiencing rate creep. Hi, this is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. What is rate creep? This is where your rates increase every year, but your agent doesn't have any other options for you. Auto Owners Insurance and Quality First will give you options. Quality First Insurance, 752-0101, right in front of Fisher Home Furnishings. For more information, go to q1ins.com.
Alpine Home Medical has been around for over 25 years. Can you believe that? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent. What keeps us coming to work every day? We're passionate about caring for you. From home and bathroom safety to transportation, mobility, recovery, oxygen, sleep, and more, come into any of our 10 locations today and let us take care of you.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat is locally owned and operated inside the beautiful new Three Peaks Medical Plaza in North Logan. Expect the most cutting-edge techniques, qualified doctors, and friendly staff to ensure the highest quality patient care. The ENT providers have extensive training to properly treat ear, nose, and throat conditions for adults and children. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat serves all of northern Utah and southern Idaho, accepting most insurance products including SelectMed. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for appointments and details. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, located in North Logan and Providence.
As a small business, achieving your financial goals and ambitions can be a steep and rocky mountain to climb. This is Brent Wallace of Cache Valley Bank. To To conquer this mountain and achieve your goals, it takes planning, hard work, and discipline. At Cache Valley Bank, we have the resources, expertise, and flexibility to help you scale your way to success. Give us a call. Let's work together and climb the mountains that await. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker here on the Full Court Press. Lauri Markkanen is an all-star. James Harden, Anthony Davis, they are not. Trae Young is not. But Lauri Markkanen is. He's going to be on the, represents the West. Well, we should say he was voted on by Western Conference coaches.
Yeah, he's a
He
member.
doesn't represent anybody anymore.
He's a Western Conference All-Star. Where he plays for is has a different story.
Yeah, if he'll be Team LeBron or Team Giannis, we won't know until the All-Star day, the day of the All-Star game. 435-339-0321 if you want to chime in. By the way, what's the best nickname for Lauri Markkanen? Lauri Legend, the Finnisher,
I was
the
always fond of the
Marksman.
Finisher. That was always one of my favorites.
I like the Finnisher. That's mine. 435-339-0321. 7994. John Morant is obviously the most improved player. Doesn't he win it every year by default? That was kind of bizarre that he did win it the other year. Was that last year or the year before?
I think it was last year.
Here's a guy who was an all-star, who's already playing at a very high level on a playoff team. He's a star, and you're saying he's the most improved. Yeah, that was surprising last year.
It was very much a media-driven thing where somebody said it and then everyone just went with it. Because, I guess part of it was he did have a scoring jump from 19.1 to 27.4, which is actually pretty close.
That's big.
But it's going from a leading scorer to just a better leading scorer, which I guess that's it's improved. So I wasn't as bothered by it, but it does feel like the award is generally reserved for guys like Lauri Markkanen, like the Victor Oladipos. Those guys who go from being maybe role players to closer to star players. They've improved. Like, how much did Ja Morant really improve? A lot of it was volume, just, putting the ball in his hands a little bit more, taking a couple extra shots. He didn't really improve, as in he just did more.
Right. It should go to a player who kind of comes out of nowhere, a player who makes a jump, who wasn't an all-star but now is an all-star, wasn't on a playoff team but helped his team get to the playoffs. Not to somebody who was already an all-star, just became more of an all-star, who got betterer. I mean, he was already good. He went from good to gooder. Come on. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not too offended by it because he did improve, but it's just, it doesn't feel like it fit the spirit of the award as it normally does.
435-339-0321. Let's do this quick timeout. We got to get this week in the Mountain West in here. An update on what's going on in the Mountain West for this upcoming weekend and things have happened so far. We'll also get into our Pick 6 items. Remember, there's a girls basketball game of the week that is going to be played out on local radio, 107.7 KLZX. You can also watch it on CacheValleyDaily.com. Kate Forrest will be calling the play-by-play for Green Canyon as they host Ridgeline tonight in North Logan. Make sure you check that out and watch that game. But another quick timeout, and when we come back, Pick 6. And, I'd love to have you play along as well with some additional thoughts here on the Full Court Press.
This is your Mountain West Basketball Update with Nate Kreckman. John Bairstow goes off for a season-high 20 points, and Utah State gets their first Quad 1 win of the season, knocking off New Mexico 84-73 Wednesday night at the Spectrum.
Bairstow against House, spins around him, and puts the floater up and in. Love that mismatch. House is looking around saying, hey, is anybody going to help me?
Scott Gerard from Learfield. Stephen Ashworth adds 19. Dan Atkins 16 off the bench. Aggies now 11-1 in Logan this season, 18-5 overall. Tuesday, a pair of good results for Leon Rice's Boise State squad. Let's start with the Broncos, eking out a tough road win at Air Force.
Kuzmanovic takes a step back three, top of the key. Pavle with a huge shot. His second Mountain America three, Boise State's first three in the second half.
Bob Beeler from Learfield. Boise State outscores Air Force 14-6 over the final 7 minutes to win at 59-52 behind 22 points from Max Rice. That puts the Broncos at 8-2 in conference. Meanwhile, in Reno, Nevada pulls away late to get a big home win over 22nd-ranked San Diego State.
Williams up top, Keenan, shot clock at 5. Lob it in for Baker. He gathers and dunks. What a great pass!
John Ramey and Len Stevens from Learfield, 75-66 the final there. The big man Will Baker, 19 points, 9 rebounds. Jared Lucas with 26. The loss drops the Aztecs to 8-2 in conference in a tie atop the Mountain West with Boise State. The Broncos go to Viejas Arena Friday night on FS1. Also Tuesday, UNLV extracts a bit of revenge with a 12-point road win at Colorado State.
Arcade back to Webster, out top Gilbert, left side Harkless, great ball movement, and E.J. Harkless pays it off with a 3, and the Rebels start on a 5-0 run.
John Sandler on ESPN 1100 in Vegas. Rebels have won 3 in a row, and Wyoming handles Fresno State 85-62 in Laramie. And that's your Mountain West basketball update. I'm Nate Kreckman.
It's engagement season. Time to find the perfect ring. S.E. Needham Jewelers is known for beautifully cut diamonds at excellent prices. Guys, the sparkle is what matters most in the diamond you give your sweetheart. Our diamonds stand apart from those of other stores. Come view our diamonds under magnification. Select a diamond that fits your budget and then have it mounted in a ring that she'll love. Remember, you get S.E. Needham quality at internet pricing. Open Monday through Saturday 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. It's just another way we install confidence. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Schreiber Foods in Logan is hiring overnight technicians for maintenance and energy systems. People who can repair, troubleshoot, and perform preventative maintenance on a variety of automated equipment. You'll also have the opportunity to participate in their upcoming expansion projects. Energy systems technicians at Schreiber Foods work with ammonia systems, boilers, and refrigeration. Schreiber Foods doesn't just invest in equipment, they invest in their employees too. Enjoy an 8% 401k match, an employee stock ownership plan, an on-site health and wellness clinic. Apply online at SchreiberFoods.com/careers. Equal opportunity employer.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wees T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Love to have you still chime in if you'd like. 435-339-0321. Lauri Markkanen is going to be an all-star. Walker Kessler is going to be in the Rising Stars Challenge. One of the coaches in that will be Darren Williams. So I'd like to see some former Jazz players, celebrities involved. That's awesome. But Walker Kessler last night, 7 blocked shots. I mean, he had 5 blocks in the first quarter alone.
Yeah, we keep having these where Kessler just he'll get like 4 or 5 blocks in a quarter and then none the rest of the game, which isn't, I guess that happens in a lot of different ways. It happens with points and rebounds and yada, yada. It's just there's been several times where suddenly I'm on triple-double Walker Kessler watch, and it's happened like 3 times this year. And I always end up disappointed because every time I start catching on, I was like, oh, he's got a bunch of blocks. Let me follow along. And then he doesn't get a block the rest of the game.
Yeah. He had several more, but there happened to be some lack of body control. So a foul was called as he was blocking the shot.
Yeah, so
it doesn't count.
He has a few of those, but he overall has spectacular rim protection technique.
He has great hands. They can lob to him, and he's going to get it, and he's going to throw it down. It's not going to fumble the pass. It's really fun watching his development and just his overall play.
I also wonder if he's a better shot blocker because usually when you block shots, you're dominant to one hand. You can see this in a lot of players. And sometimes just the hand, like when I try and block shots, I'm right-hand dominant. I don't block shots, but every now and again I kind of, but it's because I'm right-hand dominant that way and I'm right-handed. Walker Kessler, who is right-handed, is left-hand dominant with his shot blocking. And other players are right-handed, and when they face him, it helps him a lot of times because you'll see him go up. He puts two hands up. They try and reach around with his right hand. Left hand goes down, swat it out.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's that playing because I was watching a highlight reel of him blocking shots and it's like 90% of those were with his left hand. Even going up two-handed, he goes with his left hand to block a shot, not with his right hand.
He got the crowd going last night just in his play. It was awesome. It was awesome. All right, shortened time here, so we'll be quick through our pick 6 items, the things we think are going to happen this weekend.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day.
No way. It's the Full Court Press Pick 6.
Ever since March Madness ended, I am so bored.
6 things we think will happen this weekend.
I don't know how the whole betting thing started, but it's fun.
All right, Jason, you won last week, so I'll let you choose. You want to go first or defer?
I'll let you go first. I came with a bunch of alternates in case you stole them. So
just in case.
Since I'm prepared, I'll let you go first in case you stole one of mine.
All right, fair enough. We talked about him last hour. See what kind of game he has on Saturday. Z Hamoda points at Colorado State. 4.5.
I'm going to go over. We'll show faith in Z Hamoda.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. But I'm going to take the under, nonetheless. Trae Young points on Friday in Utah.
This is the one I thought you were going to have.
30.5.
Oh, wow. You went way under what mine was. I'm going to take the over
so you're
on
gonna
that
go
one.
the over?
My over-under I said was like 41.
Oh.
I was like, this guy's going to go off. He averages like 30 points.
I'm still going to take the under.
All right.
All right, then Logan over Mountain Crest in boys basketball. Grizzlies by 6.5.
I'm going to take the over. Show faith in the Grizzlies. They beat them by like 13 last time.
I'm going to take the under.
All right.
Show some faith in my alma mater.
There you go. All right, so that's mine, right? My turn.
Yes.
Okay. So, first one, combined dunks by Dan Akin and Trevin Dorius. Over under 5, or it's not 5.5, 4.5. 4.5.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm also going to take the over. I probably should have said that higher. So yeah, I had the Trae Young one, so I'm going to go to an alternate, a different all-star snub, or maybe in his mind an all-star snub. Anthony Edwards points. 28.5.
In what game?
Game on, I think, game against the Magic on Friday.
Okay, so
that music just died.
Points on Friday. Well, we're running out of time. Anthony Edwards points on Friday, 28.5.
Yeah, 28.5.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the under.
All right.
And then Utah State and Colorado State. I set the zones. I don't know what the actual spread is, but I'm going to set the spread at 5.5. Aggies by 5.5.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the over as well.
Okay. And then a tiebreaker?
Tiebreaker. Wins by Western Conference teams on Friday. There's a maximum of 7 possible. There's actually no inter-Western Conference games, but one of the games is just all Eastern Conference teams. So there's a possibility of 7. I'll set the over-under at 3.5.
So wins by NBA Western Conference teams on Friday specifically.
Yeah, on Friday.
At 3.5. And I don't even know who's playing. I'll take the over.
All right. And I go with the under, it being the tiebreaker.
All right. So there's our 6 lines, things we think are going to happen this weekend, plus a tiebreaker.
Yeah. So it's 7 things.
Yes. With the extra point, the PAT.
There you go. It's the pick touchdown.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The pick 6 plus the PAT. So we'll run through it again on Monday. We'll see how well we did on trying to predict what would happen this weekend. Love to have you follow along and see how well you did as well. But we'll be back. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. We've got a lot of different things going on tomorrow, and just kind of looking to the weekend. Region 11 boys basketball back in action. Girls basketball in action tonight. Boys basketball tomorrow. Jazz in action. We've got all-star festivities for both the NFL and the NHL. Some juicy Mountain West Conference games Friday. A few more on Saturday. So it's a busy weekend ahead of us in sports. So no lack of topics for us tomorrow. Love to have you join in and be a part of it. If you missed anything from today or like yesterday, we had a great interview with Steve Hansen, former coach at Mountain Crest with their baseball team. He's going to be inducted into Coaches Hall of Fame. Go back and listen to that. You can find all of our past episodes on our website, 1069thefan.com. Also on our app, you can access those and listen to your little heart's content. Until then, we'll be back here and do it all again tomorrow here on the Full Court Press.